Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Career Transition Expert Series. Today, I'm once again joined by the amazing Kelsie Marks, Director of Career Transformations at Educated Exit. If you've been around for a while, you might remember her from a past episode. This time, we're catching up on what's new, what's changed in the job market, and the real truths about transitioning out of the classroom. Kelsie brings such an honest perspective from her own journey as a teacher, counselor, and a tech professional, and now through her work helping educators navigate their next steps. Get ready for some eye-opening insights and practical advice that could reshape the way you think about your own career path. And as always, let's get ready to do this.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Leena Marie Saleh, the EdTech Guru. I want to thank you so much for spending time with me on this journey, for all the support that you give me, and for following along. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, and let's get ready to do this. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Teacher Transition Expert Series. Today we have the pleasure of being joined by Kelsie Marks of Educated Exit. Kelsie, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I'm really excited. And if you guys haven't caught the episode before, Kelsie has actually been on. So this is a revisit episode. Talk about all things new and catch up on really the job market. I think it's been like 2.5 years at least
Yeah,
since
it's been a
Kelsey's been on.
while.
So I think we'll have lots of truth bombs probably be dropped today and some really good information. So to kick it off, Kelsie, can you remind everyone a little bit about yourself and basically just a little refresher on how you kind of got to where you are today?
Of course. So, hello everyone. I'm Kelsie Marks. My current title is the Director of Career Transformations at Educated Exit. Prior to this, I was their resume specialist. I wrote pretty much all the resumes and cover letters that came through our organization. And prior to the role that I have now, I was a preschool teacher for 2.5 years. I was a school counselor for 2.5 years. And then I also worked in the ed tech space, helping educators implement and use the educational technology company that I worked for to the best of their ability. So I've really seen education from a variety of different vantage points.
Yeah, I love that story. And we talked about this on our last episode, but I'll just bring this up again is when before we move into like Educated Exit and all the things. But Kelsie actually, I think we talked about this on our last episode, but felt like she needed to go to ed tech as like her next step out of the classroom. And Kelsie can speak to this more, but when she did make the move, the part that I found most interesting, I think not most interesting, but I think is interesting is that sometimes ed tech isn't always the be all end all for everyone. Like they think that their next exit must be in ed tech, but that's not necessarily the truth for everybody.
Like I said, I've talked about ed tech extensively on my platform, but when I actually made that transition from school counseling and working in the education system to working in ed tech, it wasn't what was right for me. And that's not to say that I didn't have a great employer, because I did, and I truly still believe in their technology. And that's not to say that I didn't have a great team, because I did, and I loved everyone I worked with. But I didn't take the time to really understand what I wanted in the next phase of my career. And ultimately, that hurt my career long term.
Yeah, I think that's a good perspective because I think oftentimes everybody gets pushed into this thinking, I don't know, it's every single career transitioner that I speak to or that wants to set up a coffee chat or anything like that, like, oh, tell me what it's like in ed tech. And I think in terms of the job market, which we can dive into more of this in a bit too, but in terms of the job market, I think it's a tough job market. Like there's a lot of people hiring and those sorts of things, but it's a lot more competitive landscape, I think, than it's been in a long time because
Yeah.
the employment rate isn't really low. Like there are jobs, but it's much more competitive landscape. And I think when you think about ed tech being this, it's really like this big in compared to like what the whole job market is. That when you
Yeah.
pin yourself into a hole sometimes, even though that may be what you think is best for you, you're really limiting your options of what you can do
Yeah.
beyond the classroom. And I think when we think about ed tech and going gung ho, being like, this is what we want to do, I think it's good to consider, are you doing it because you're an educator And so you think that's what will make the most sense to you, or are you doing it because that's where your passion lies?
Yes, exactly. And we have these conversations a lot with educators. And in terms of your point, in terms of the job market, what a lot of educators we work with maybe don't understand about the job market is there are still jobs out there. Like, don't get me wrong, there are jobs. Is it getting more competitive? Yes. But you need to understand how to look for jobs and where to look for jobs. Because especially right now at Educated Exit, we are seeing a large increase in educators who want to transition into places like higher education, aerospace and defense companies. Those are organizations that are still actively hiring, and many of your skills as a teacher still translate to those settings.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And you really, I think the thing about education and what it does and why it makes it so hard for people to really pinpoint where they want to go is because you do a thousand things. You are marketing,
Yes.
you are life cycle, which is emails, you are doing content marketing, which is creating your blogs and your teacher emails and your newsletters, and you're also doing sales where you're selling things to people every single day to get them to buy in. You're also making sure the students have success, or that customer success role. There's so many different pieces and parts to what you're doing that just pigeonholing yourself into one career choice can be really difficult. So I like what you're saying, like expand your breadth of going into higher ed, or
Yeah.
that I would have never thought about the aerospace like field. Like I would have never thought like, oh, this is something I could like go into. So I like that you mentioned that, because I think that's like, who mentions that? Nobody.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the reason why it's so important to work with a reputable career coach, because a lot of what I see, especially on social media, is people telling educators what they can and cannot do. Things like EdTech organizations, nonprofits, the range of job opportunities is marketed in a very narrow sense. But when you step back and look at all of the skills that educators have, they actually have a wide variety of skills that make them valuable in pretty much almost any corporate setting.
Mm-hmm.
So you really need to evaluate your skills before you just start applying to jobs in any industry, really.
Yeah, I completely agree. Before we dive more into like that side of things, I would love for you to tell everyone a little bit about Educated Exit, the services that you offer, and anything that you can kind of speak to there.
Sure. So we are primarily a one-to-one career coaching firm. That means you get access to myself and our CEO, lead career coach, Chris McLean, one-to-one in perpetuity until you find a job. That is kind of our bread and butter right now. And the vast majority of educators who come to us for coaching come to us for that reason. They want the support, they want the access, they want, everything that comes with that mentoring.
Mm-hmm.
And we do offer other services. We offer resume writing, we offer resume and cover letter writing, LinkedIn services. We also have a course that we offer. So anybody who feels like they can DIY this process on their own, we have a course for you. It's called the Exit Plan. We launched it last year. So far, we've seen a good amount of success with it. But yeah, those are our main things that we do. We also share a wide variety of media. One of our biggest drivers of educator interaction at this point is now media, because I'm on social media so much talking about a wide range of issues related to educators. So, because of that, we have also developed a wide range of free resources for people. We have a free teacher career planning guide. We have a free teacher burnout relief guide. And we have a variety of blogs, articles, and videos on our website completely free that educators can access at any time.
I think I love hearing about the exit plan, because that didn't exist a few years ago. So, and then having like that
Right.
wealth of resources, I think as educators, a lot of times they can be bombarded by the amount of resources that are out there. And I know that what I love about the work that you and Chris do is that there's also a shit ton of testimonials to like back up what you've been doing and how you've been helping other educators. And I think that's really important as an educator who's looking to evaluate where they go and where they spend their money, because that money is, as an educator, very often tight. I know people argue with me about their salaries, but in Texas, the salary for a teacher is very low and you don't have a lot of money. And so, and it doesn't matter if you get more college or you do any of those types of things. It's just purely just a stepping stone of how you get that more money. So I think money can be really tight for educators. So making sure that they make that really good step and having the wealth of DIY resources for teachers is a really important component of that. But sometimes you do need the help of getting one-to-one career coaching and guidance. And I think that's a really important offer for teachers to consider when they are making that, because sometimes sometimes that's what you need. Sometimes you need a cheerleader to help you, somebody who you can trust. That's not family or friends, but somebody who has an unbiased opinion of how to get you where you need to go. Because a lot of people will feed you spoonfuls of sugar to make you look like you're on the right direction. But having an unbiased opinion of you is really good, can be very helpful for you as an educator to make that next step.
Yes, I completely agree.
Yeah. Because we all know people like to spoon you the sugar, but it's not necessarily, the great thing to get you where you're going. Okay, so let's talk about the job market and maybe not even just talk about the job market, but talk about, we've talked about the steps and all the things that you need to take as educators, but I think I really want to focus a little bit more on this aspect of networking, branding, where you're getting information, like that sort of a thing. You and I have built our audiences. Obviously, you're way more of a LinkedIn celebrity than myself, but
thanks. I appreciate that.
But I think LinkedIn is a really important stepping stone. You mentioned that you guys do like LinkedIn optimization. Oftentimes when I'm getting messages from educators and I look at their profiles, we know this, you know this, it has 1,050 things on it. And then you go down to their experience and there's nothing there. So like the headline is saying 100 things. The About Me section has like a tiny bit of information. And then you go down to where the most important part is, what people are actually looking for is empty. So what would you tell an educator who's looking to get started, and where are they going to have the most impact on LinkedIn?
Sure. So I do want to make it clear, LinkedIn is very different from other types of social media. Your goal on LinkedIn is to build a professional brand and network that you can access later on down the road. So simply posting your resume and asking for job leads or telling people you're open to every job under the sun is not going to generate the attention and the help that you think it's going to generate. Your mission on LinkedIn is to be strategically specific about your skills. So, what that means is you need to fill out your LinkedIn profile completely. Like, completely fill that out. And this doesn't mean like go buy LinkedIn Premium and you're going to automatically get a job. That's not what this means. This means you need to spend time looking at your LinkedIn profile, looking at your skill set, and understanding what your strongest transferable skills are and how you want to highlight those things. Because the thing that gets people hired, regardless of what industry you transition into, regardless of what job you're coming from, is your ability to solve problems and make an impact. So your LinkedIn needs to demonstrate how your skills can impact an employer later on down the line.
Yep. I completely agree with that. And I want to take one step back for just 1 second, just as we were thinking about LinkedIn and me asking this question about this. But don't fill out your LinkedIn profile until you're really sure about a strategic decision about where you want. I mean, you can fill it out, just like briefly fill it out, but intentionally and strategically filling it out until you're really sure about the direction that you want to go.
Yeah.
Not to say that you can't go back and change it, but once you start kind of the ball rolling, it's really good to make sure that your LinkedIn is telling the same story of the story that you want. So whether that's going into higher ed, whether that's going into aeronautical, I don't know, whatever, or working at the government or working at NASA. It doesn't really matter where you set your sights. It's just important that your LinkedIn is telling the story that you want it to tell. I see teachers make a mistake, and you see this too. They come to LinkedIn, fill out their profile, and it's like I said, that jack of all trade type of a thing. And then they're not really sure about the direction that they want to go. So then they start doing their resume and then they change their LinkedIn. But that's like not a strategy for actually getting a job.
Yeah.
That's a tool for people to look at to view you, but not the strategy for finding the job.
Yeah, and one thing that we speak to educators a lot about is there is a difference between a tool and a strategy. Your resume is a tool. Your cover letter is a tool. Your LinkedIn is a tool. Your strategy is who you engage with and how you engage with them. Your strategy is if you decide to post on LinkedIn, what are you posting? And how are you engaging with people in your comment section? That is a strategy.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think sometimes it can get the misconception of like the two, and it's like your resume is a tool. It's telling people the impact that you've had. And when we say impact, we mean actually accounting for your impact. That doesn't mean removing students. That doesn't mean removing your school teaching experience. That means equating for it. Like if you led a training, how many people are at the training? What metrics did you measure? That means what was the success? Did people like the training? Was it impactful? Are you able to account for the learning outcomes that occurred and making sure that you can appropriately equate that for a business to understand, because businesses like numbers and they like to know impact because they're spending dollars on you. And so they want to know.
Yes, I couldn't. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That is, and I think that's hard for sometimes educators to understand. But in the corporate world, you really need to think about revenue and money and understanding how revenue and money tie to your job or tie to you getting a job, because it takes people time, energy, resources to hire someone. It takes time, energy, resources to onboard and get you to the point where you can contribute. So you need to make sure you're coming to the table with information, data, talking points about how you, as the career changer, are going to make an impact on that organization's revenue.
Yes, I completely agree. And I think a common like misconception I think is that everyone, obviously your resume has to tell the positive things of what you've done, but I think when you go to an interview and you say like, I did lead this training for 12 people, let's say. 6 out of the 12 people had a really good experience. 4 out of 10 didn't use the tool or do the things that I've done. And so this is how I went back to the drawing board to show that impact. I think there's a place to show how you learn from failure.
Yeah.
Because we only want to have the billboard of the positives, but you also need to show how you had those hard, and that's a good indication of showing your employer when you do go to get your interview. It's like, I failed and here's how I made it better.
Yes.
Yeah.
I completely agree with that. Yeah, that employers want to see success, but they also want to see perseverance. They also want to see problem solving. They also want to see overcoming objection. All those small things that, well, I wouldn't even say small, all those little tiny moments that teachers sometimes don't even think about, they are actually important in the corporate world, and they can make you a really strong corporate employee. But you need to be able to articulate that in a way that matters to them.
Exactly. Yes. Okay. So somebody comes to you and they work with you in a one-on-one experience. Can you share with them some of the things that they would experience when working with you as a client for the one-on-one coaching?
Yeah. So all of our coaching is designed based on the individual. That doesn't mean that we don't follow the same strategic framework. All of our clients get that same framework, but we try and cater coaching to the individual person. So in that sense, all clients receive something called a UVP, which is your unique value proposition, which essentially is kind of what we were just talking about, how you can provide value to an employer. You get practice on writing your UVP, you get practice on how that integrates into your resume, cover letter, that type of thing. You also get a target employer pipeline worksheet and spreadsheet. So, what that means is you're going to take your first choice in terms of, let's say, EdTech is your first choice, nonprofit is your second choice, higher education is your third choice. You're going to start finding job descriptions in those areas. And then we're going to discuss why those job descriptions caught your eye, or how you can impact those jobs at that organization. And then from there, we really kind of build out your action plan. So, what does that look like? Who are you networking with? How often are you networking? When are you applying for jobs? Do you need childcare so that you can spend an extra half hour at the end of the day writing resumes and getting those resumes out? That's really when like the hard work begins of action planning and you kind of putting pen to paper in terms of, okay, I'm going to sit down for 30 minutes tonight and I'm going to apply for 2 jobs or 1 job, whatever it may be.
Yeah, I think what I liked from what you just shared about that like experiences, it's not just come to you, we're going to do everything for you kind of a thing. It's like we're helping teach you and coach you on how to do this so you have more confidence in the tools and the tool sets that you have to be able to have success in that, in finding that next career.
Yeah, and one thing that we often talk to educators about, because I understand that investing in career coaching is scary. Many times when educators do make that decision to leave education, they don't know that this is a thing. They don't know that this is an option for them. And oftentimes they feel kind of scared. You know, they're just not sure. They've never experienced that world of career coaching. When on the other side of that, corporate employees invest in all kinds of things all the time, right? But what I tell a lot of educators is that when you work with our organization, you're not just going to find a job, you're going on a path that you're going to learn skills that you're going to be able to implement later on down the line. Because likely your first job out of education is not going to be your last job. And you very well may likely need to look for a job again at some point in the future.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that because I know oftentimes as educators, and this is no fault to educators, this is just how the system works. As an educator, you actually don't, I mean, you may switch districts or something, but like, you know, the pathway is just education. Like it's just, you know, it's just steps within an organization essentially. But when you're in a different career, you may also find that you want a different career. Like you may want to move from marketing to sales or sales to marketing or marketing to, I don't know, whatever it is that you feel like you engineering or UX or who knows what you want to do. So having those skill sets is really important and understanding that it's okay to want more after your next step. Like I think you can be more hungry, where as in education, it's kind of tricky. The way that you are more hungry is by more schooling or more, you know, we should always be upskilling. That's 100% true for any industry. But I think in education, it just looks a little bit different. So I think the next step out of the classroom, I often hear, well, I want this to be my last one. And it just probably won't be. Yeah. Okay. So now I want to get into some hot takes for career switching. This is my favorite.
Oh boy. Okay. Probably my favorite subject.
All right. So what are your, you can give me 3 to 5, but like, what are your 3 to 5 hot takes for career switching?
Number 1, do not pick a teacher career change coach simply off what you see on Instagram and TikTok. Number 2, AI will only get you so far in this process. Number 3, your resume and your cover letter are not the end all be all, and you need to be flexible and understand that. Number 4 would be career coaching is likely the fastest way out of education. And I think that's it.
Okay. I like all those, the career switching. Okay. So give us an instance, not because you are a career coach. So that's, the work that you're doing, but why do you say not only solely based on LinkedIn or TikTok? Give us some good examples, since this is happening to people.
Yeah.
Why that's one of your hot takes.
So at Educated Exit, we have data to back up that 70% of our clients come to us after unsuccessfully working with another teacher career change coach. And often when I meet with people or when I speak with people, they will say things like, oh, well, they had a large audience on TikTok or they had a large audience on Instagram. And that's valuable to a point, right? And then they'll come back to me and say, but I've never heard of you. And I'm like, right, I got that. And again, an audience is valuable to a point. But you can go to our website and you can see hundreds, literally hundreds of testimonials of people who have passed through our organization. And with our course and our offerings, we've now touched 20,000 educators who have used our resources. So sure, you might not know me, and that's okay, but I would double check whoever you're working with, whoever you're speaking to, whoever you're paying money to, that they have legitimately helped people and they have, a LinkedIn profile, a website, testimonials to back up what they are saying.
Yeah.
Because again, at the end of the day, you're spending your hard-earned money on this. And if you're not using somebody reputable, you're likely wasting your money.
Yeah. I would say every career coach that we've had on have basically shared the same sentiment of what you're saying. Is I think I've also had people come to me and been like, I've been scammed, I've been this, I've been that, or I see it in my comments. And so it's really important, like with anything, that you make sure that you vet your career coach or your resources. That's just an important part of job hunting, because it is easy.
Yeah.
It is easy to be oversold and underdelivered, and you want to make sure that somebody is delivering the result that you're wanting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay, now let's talk about AI, because we have
goodness.
our own takes on AI. I actually agree with you in that AI isn't going to be everything. I think it's just like everything else. It's a tool that you can use to help you, whether that's, helping craft a bullet point for LinkedIn, or I don't know, helping you edit some copy. I think it can't be a replacement though for you.
Okay, so those are valid points. For me personally, I'm not a fan of AI. I don't use AI to write any of my marketing. It's all my own words. And you can tell that because sometimes I make typos and people definitely point that out. But to your point, yes, AI can be helpful. If you want to retweak your cover letter and have it sound more professional, or you want just maybe a thought partner in terms of how to write a cover letter or how to retweak a resume bullet point, whatever it is, that is valid. I will totally validate that. And I have worked with educators who have used those things and crafted beautiful cover letters, resumes, whatever it may be. But what I'm talking about is using AI to solely replace the use of a career coach. Because often what I see, especially on LinkedIn and Instagram, is people pushing this narrative that you can use AI or ChatGPT or whatever AI platform you want as a replacement for paying somebody. And I guess, yeah, you could. And I don't use AI a lot, so I don't really know its capabilities, as terrible as that sounds. I personally like to use my brain, but I personally don't think that this computer black box algorithm is going to give you the appropriate attention, emotional intelligence, critical thinking questions that having a human conversation with somebody can. And there's a lot of issues in the world. There's a lot of crazy out there. I just wouldn't, in my opinion, trust AI to guide that process, if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. I think with anything, I think AI is a good thought partner. It is a good,
Yeah.
brainstorming tool, that sort of a thing. But I don't think AI, in my opinion, same as you, will ever take the place of a human. I think people try to have it take the place of the human, and I think it can do an okay job, but sometimes you really need to be thinking through something with a human and get that human insight and expertise, because chat gpt can end up being your yes man, and sometimes you need more than just a yes man. You need someone to tell you, like, no, that's probably not the right path, or, oh, that's a really good direction. But you need that, like, authentic feedback that a human can give you. Like, sometimes we just need the human piece of things. So yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things that we speak about a lot in coaching is being able to accept and implement feedback. And sometimes that feedback isn't always positive. And so if you're just feeding questions to a computer, they're likely just going to feed back what you want to hear. And from what I know of AI, the implicit and explicit biases can only be trained out to a point. And so, what happens if you give it all this information and you end up doing something, or you end up applying for a job or accepting a job, whatever it may be, that you kind of know deep down that you're not going to like, you're not going to be happy with?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I also, to your point about implicit and explicit biases, there was, I don't know, an article or, story not too long ago about how AI generally, when a woman is asking for salary, will end up telling the woman to lowball it. Whereas if a man is asking, it will give them a higher, like, salary, like a request for, like, negotiation of, like, a higher salary. So like we said, there are times where you really do need to work with a human. And I think the first step of the classroom is a really good place to do that. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about, I can't even believe I'm going to mention this, but I mentioned this a bit with Allie when she came on too, but I'm seeing you having a lot of these conversations, whether this is on, like, Instagram or TikTok or that sort of thing, but you and I are not pushing the narrative of teachers to leave the classroom. So if you're watching this and you're thinking to yourself, like, we're really pushing for you to leave the classroom, that's not the truth. The truth is, we've been in the classroom and we know how difficult it is to leave the classroom. And our jobs are, if you want to stay in the classroom, that is absolutely okay. Nobody's saying you have to leave, but our job specifically and the tools that we're providing you are for those that have already made the decision. And they should feel empowered to make that move too.
Yeah, and something that I have spoken at length about on all of my platforms is that I didn't leave education because I hated it.
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved working with students. I only ever wanted to be a teacher. I've been a teacher, I've been a school counselor. I loved the students. But at the end of the day, I needed to love myself more. And that's why I had to leave. And I have also openly discussed that if there could be systemic change across the board, I would consider going back to education, because I did love my job. Like I said, I loved my students. But again, I am one person in a huge system, and I have to do what is best for myself.
Yep. Agreed. And, and that's okay. And I just want educators to know that it is okay, whichever decision you decide to go in. We are never going to push you to leave the classroom, because we know how impactful that job is. But you also need to feel supported if that is a decision that you want to leave in. So if you're coming here for that sort of hot tea, you can just step on out of here, because you're not going to find it here, you guys.
Exactly.
Okay, let's also, you mentioned something that I think around, like, networking on LinkedIn, and I've seen a lot of this lately, and I don't know if it's trend that somebody started or not started, but posting, I'm leaving the classroom, I'm open to A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, like every single thing under the sun. Please refer me to the right place. Can you share with our audience why that might not be the best approach to your job hunting process?
Sure. So, like I said before, LinkedIn is a social network for professional job corporate space. It is not, it's not Facebook, it's not LinkedIn, it's not TikTok. There's a certain level of professionalism and a certain level of emotional intelligence and professionalism. I don't know if I've already said that, that goes into posting on LinkedIn. Now, what I will say is that's kind of changing on the platform, as you and I have discussed off camera. But when you go to post on LinkedIn, especially as a teacher career changer, likely you are someone who is new to the platform. Likely you don't have a huge following. And likely, if this is your first post, you are not someone who has a clear path, if that makes sense, from the post that I've seen. And so if you are just posting to post and ask for job leads, number one, that shows people that you really don't understand the purpose of LinkedIn and how to use the platform effectively. Number two, if you don't have the professional network, your post will likely fall on deaf ears. And number three, if you're posting these things and later on an employer sees it after maybe you crushed an interview, it can actually have negative effects. So I don't want to say posting on LinkedIn is bad as a teacher career changer. I actually know educators who have found jobs through posting on LinkedIn. But you need to be very strategic about how you post on LinkedIn and what you're going to say.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I also think it's good to just be mindful that like you are actually still in a contract most times.
Oh, yes.
And I don't think this has happened, but I would hate if an employer came on, like your current employer that you're teaching with, and came on and saw that you were like desperately begging for jobs outside of the classroom. You just got to be really careful and like really mindful about what it looks like. And me as a person who hires at my, has been part of the hiring process at Canva, the first thing I do is I go to your LinkedIn. Not only do I just go there, but I go to look at your posts and your comments, and I want to make sure that I understand who you are as a person as far as like commenting, like
Yeah.
as far as your professionalism. So I think just
Mhm.
keep that in mind. I think posting is great and sharing your, sharing those types of things. Just remember that if somebody that you didn't know was working at a company, what would you hope that they took away from your profile at looking at you? If you want to post on Facebook or Instagram and say, "Oh, I had the worst job interview, blah blah blah." That's a much better place to do it than probably sharing it on LinkedIn, only because a lot of recruiters and professional people are looking at your LinkedIn to see if you would make the next great hire at their company.
Yeah, and actually to your point about being in your current contract, I have actually worked with educators who were afraid of not only just posting, but interacting in comments because their school, in their contract, their school or their district, whatever it may be, kind of frowned upon the use of LinkedIn
Mm.
or job searching or breaking contracts, whatever it may be. And I've actually spoken to educators who were afraid to interact on LinkedIn because of that. So, I mean, I think that if you are someone who is going to post on LinkedIn, especially if you're going to say something negative, you just really need to be prepared for the ramifications of that.
Yeah, I agree. And I can definitely see that actually about the you be nervous to like post on LinkedIn. I think just keep it positive. Don't make it look like you don't need to throw up the open to work banner. Like you can just keep it professional
Yeah.
in a sense. So I think that's really good. Okay, any last steps or someone who is looking to make the career switch?
I would say you need to be very open minded, especially right now in the job market. It's a tough market right now. Doesn't mean it's impossible. We still have educators landing interviews and jobs. especially in those two industries that I mentioned earlier, higher education and aerospace and defense, like contracting stuff. Again, plan for 3 to 6 months career transition. And if you're going to quit your job without a backup plan, make sure you have the financial means to do that.
I think those are, yes. And I'm glad that you said 3 to 6 months. Do you find that in this job market that it's taking longer?
So right now, because we are seeing the increase in educators wanting to go into higher education and the aerospace and defense, we are not.
Okay.
However, I am seeing other people across all media talk about how jobs or getting a job is taking 9, 12 months. That said, I have personally seen a huge decrease in educators who want to transition into ed tech. And I think that's for a variety of reasons. But if you are someone who is set, like, I only want to do ed tech and I cannot apply for anything outside of that, I would plan for maybe a year plus at this point.
Yeah, I think that's a good perspective just for everyone to just kind of have an idea of, where you're going, what you're thinking. Kelsie, as always, this is one of my favorite interviews to do. I'm so thankful that you came on today. If somebody is looking to connect with you, obviously, or learn more about Educated Exit, where are the best places to do so?
I can be found on LinkedIn, just Kelsie Marks. I have over 100,000 followers there. I post every single day.
LinkedIn celebrity.
I'm also on, say that again?
I said, see, LinkedIn celebrity.
Yeah, thanks. I'm also on I said LinkedIn. I'm also on Instagram at Educated Exit. I run all the Educated Exit social medias. So Instagram, just Educated Exit. TikTok, Kelsie Marks. Those are my 3 main socials. I try and make sure Educated Exit has media going out every single day, but I do work with clients daily as well. So I'm always available for those who need me. But again, we now have such a large audience that I try and make sure that there are also free resources that you can use to help yourself.
That's amazing. Well, Kelsie, thank you again for coming on. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much. You've made it this far. We are so thankful that you're here. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, thumbs up, comment below, and join us for all of our next videos. Thank you so much for joining us as we disrupt education together. See you guys soon. Bye, everybody.